What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with Danielle Pierce. Now, she is definitely, and I would say, an expert. And she know more than me, so that's why I want to say she's an expert. And as you look at her website, daniellepierce.com, she says here that she is the wealth strategist. And I have a lot of questions for the wealth strategist because I need strategy too. And I'm pretty sure many of you watching need a couple of strategy yourself. So Danielle, thank you for joining the show today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super happy. I'm sorry it took me a little bit long to log on, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh, like they say, you made it. You came as you are. So we thank the Lord for you.
Thank you.
All right. So Danielle, tell us a little bit about your story. You know, it definitely comes, to leading up to the point that you start getting more involved in making money in real estate.
Yes. So my story, let me see. Let me do the 30 or 60-second version, maybe like 2 minutes. So I have a background in corporate accounting and actually audit. I have an accounting degree from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I had the idea that I was going to work in corporate and climb the glass ceiling and become partner in a public accounting firm. And then, I got what I asked for. I started working and I realized that, not really feeling this whole job. It's not really what I want to do with the rest of my life. So long story short, I ended up being laid off about 5 years after I started in corporate. So this was in 2007. And at the time, I begged to be laid off, like not like in real life, but in my head, I was like, man, I hope they lay me off. I want to get laid off. I'm going to get, a severance package and I could be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be rich and it's going to be great. And so then I got what I asked for. And of course, I wasn't ready. So that's why I always tell people now that if you have a job and you claim to hate it and you're like, I hate my boss, hate my job, I'm ready to leave. Most people are not ready to leave their job. Most people, if they go into work tomorrow and their boss or somebody says, hey, come sit in this room and they give you a notice of termination, for most people, they will freak them out. So I would always tell people, and I still do, is to make sure that you are grateful for the job that you have, because surely there are thousands of people who want to be in your exact same position. So I will say that. Back to my story. So I got laid off. I call myself being an entrepreneur. And when you have a corporate background, you decide you're going to flip the script and become an entrepreneur. A lot of us have the tendency to want to make things look like they're better than what they are. So I did that for a couple of years. I spent all the money I got from my job for like the first year. Then I was doing my first rehab, and it was like I got a profit of $26,908 and like 57 cents. I still have the check, and I also spent that money as well. And I'm only sharing these things because to kind of drive home the point that if you have a poverty mindset, no matter how much money you're blessed with at any point, the outside will always match the inside. So inside, I was like, I'm broke. And so I made, like I said, all my actions kind of quickly led to me being broke again in real life because I didn't know how to handle that amount of money, which at the time I thought was like a whole bunch of money. So it's $30,000 from my job and again, $26,000 from my flip. So I went through that money, struggled as an entrepreneur for a few years. It took me about 5.5 years to replace my corporate salary, a little over 6 to finally hit the magical 6-figure mark, which I thought again was going to be a difference maker and make me rich. And then it didn't happen. I was like, damn, I'm still not rich. And I've only shared this again because I think it's important that we stop looking at 6 figures. At least $100,000 is like the promised land, because it's really not. And it really should be kind of a starting point, to be honest. So I've always been in real estate. I tried a bunch of different things unsuccessfully. About 6 years ago, I learned about property preservation, which is repairing and maintaining foreclosed properties. And then a couple years after that, I learned about tax lien investing. So I've been doing both, and I specialize in both of those areas. That's it. Like, I don't do wholesaling, overages, flipping, commercial investing, retail. I am a specialist. I think it's important that you specialize in whatever it is that you do. I think you tend to get the best results that way. So that is my story in a couple of minutes. And again, I've been self-employed since 2007. So I've been a 13-year real estate entrepreneur.
All right. You said something very interesting, or a lot of things, but one thing I want to home in on, you mentioned this poverty mentality. What do you believe that consists of? Because I know that's a big issue in our community for sure. But what does it consist of to you? Because you stated you got what some people would view as a lot of money. With me and you probably say, no, that's just okay, maybe. But tell me what that consists of.
So it's children are always learning, even when adults are not actively teaching. So for me, growing up, it was myself. I have three brothers, one sister. My sister is the oldest. Sister kind of got the short end of the stick in that she was 6 years older, so she kind of became the permanent babysitter, so to speak. So she missed out on a lot of things growing up. My mother, she worked a lot, and the reason why she worked a lot is because she didn't like the stereotype of being a quote unquote welfare mom or receiving public assistance. And so she decided to work. So she went to work every day, but she never really made a lot of money. And so, there was a lot of times, at least a couple times a month where we were short either on food, we were short on, never had the right clothes for school, never had enough money for shoes, never had enough money for extracurricular activities. I remember wanting to play a clarinet, and it was $10 to pay for the practice sessions to play the clarinet, and she didn't have it. She didn't have it. And so what that did for me as a child was kind of condition me to believe that money was scarce, money was hard to come by. When you did get money, you should just spend it because you never know where you're going to get more money. And that was the mindset that I developed. Now, I'm while I was in it, I wasn't able to pinpoint it like that. But as I got older and I looked back, I was like, oh, that's what it is. So whenever I did get money, even though I could have used that to leverage myself into a better position, my mentality was such that I was like, oh, well, I better spend this money. No, you saving it. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You better live for today. That was my conditioning. So I always, 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 for the longest time, just got money and spent it just because that's how I thought that things were supposed to go. And the idea of saving or leveraging or investing was two to me, in spite of the fact that I have a college degree from which at the time was number one accounting program in the country and probably still is top one or top two or top three. And so that it took me forever first to identify it, acknowledge it, and then to work on changing it. So poverty mindset is just simply, for me, how I grew up, and then the mentality, the things that I learned about money indirectly, because nobody ever sat me down and said, yeah, Danielle, we broke, or we don't have money for this, or, this is how you should live your life. Nobody ever said that directly, but all the messaging and things definitely hinted at that. And so those are the lessons that I absorbed for many, many, many years, which affected me for many, many, many years until I was able to kind of get past it.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned that at $100,000 should be the starting point. It's not like, that's the goal you should be at. Why did you say that should be the starting point?
Actually, I don't even think that should be the starting point. I think that whoever's watching, whatever your goal is, you should 10x your goal at least, because a lot of us set, realistic goals, comfortable goals that we feel like we could hit with a little bit of effort if we just kind of, quote unquote, buckle down. And what typically ends up happening, at least for myself and for a lot of people that I talk to, is that those goals are so low that they don't have enough power to kind of force you into action when there's so many other things competing for your attention. So if there's something coming on Netflix that you want to watch, you're like, I should be working on this, but my goal is only make an extra $2,000 a month or $5,000 a month. So those numbers aren't high enough to force you to stop doing something else that's immediately available to you, if that makes sense. So you have to set goals high enough to be like, I don't have time to do this other stuff. Like, I have to make these things happen. Otherwise, I'm not going to hit this goal. And the other part of that is that if you have a 9-to-5, and especially if you have like a comfy job and, your bills are paid and you're not rich, but you're not really broke, you're not really struggling. You can kind of take a vacation once or twice a year, maybe something like that. That spot right there, that place of comfort, is like one of the hardest things to change, because you kind of have to let go of the person who makes $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year or $80,000 a year in order to become someone who learns how to make significantly more money, or just leverage and maintain the money that you you're currently blessed with, as opposed to always being on the hunting, looking for more money. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
All right. So when it came, at least with you, and I'll just throw myself in, I believe if I can get to one level, then I like to challenge myself to get to the next level. I look at it like maybe like a game, it just that challenge.
That's rare. I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, you get comfortable, especially if you come from not having anything. So
Mhm.
you get to a certain level of comfort. You're like, I made it. I'm good. Right? Life's great. Why do anything more? I mean, I think that if you're that way, I think that that's abnormal in a good way. But I think that that's not the norm.
Yeah. Well, for me, I know it's dangerous to get comfortable because once you get comfortable, the only place to go is down.
Mhm. I would agree with that. I actually just finished doing a broadcast on my YouTube channel with an attorney. He's an estate planning attorney, amongst other things. But he talked about how a lot of times we mistake our ending. We mistake our starting point for the destination. Meaning, we think that once we have our degree, or we've gotten the mortgage, or we've acquired, an investment property, or any number of things that the American dream tells us that we should reach. That once we get there, we think that we're done. When in actuality, we're just getting started. And I agree with it. I think that making six figures, especially if you're the first person in your family to do it, can easily can backfire on you just because the mindset isn't there to maintain it.
Correct. So when let's talk about family. You brought up family. So when you are a person that's probably the most successful at your family, um, how do you deal with that? Because what comes along with that is things that you never anticipated before. Certain attitudes could change towards you, or certain people may feel they should come ask you something all the time. With, oh, you got it, so you should be funding everything.
Yeah, how much time we got on this broadcast?
Oh, sound like you can relate.
So I actually polled my audience one time on my Facebook group, which is Real Estate Profit Lab with Danielle Pierce, if you wanted to join. And I said, I'm curious to see who in here identifies as the go-to person in the family. And a huge percentage of folks in the group were that person in their family. So that tells me that one, I've been that person and I attract that type of person to my audience. Now, with that being stated, that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Now, do I think you have a responsibility to uplift as you climb? Absolutely. Do I believe that you should hoard resources and information from your family and friend circle? I don't think that you should do that either. But I also think that you have to be careful not to get caught up in the trap of thinking that you're the savior or the manager of the universe, or that these people will not survive without you. And you also have to be careful to make sure that it's not being taken advantage of, or that you're not crippling people. Um, and it's a very fine line. And I wish I could tell you that I've mastered it and that I have it all figured out. But it took me so I started this, I was a caddy starting from the age of 13. I worked at a golf course, carrying a golf club for the people who were playing golf at this private golf course. And I got paid every day when I was doing that. And from the time when I was 13, over the next 23, 25 years, because I'm 40 now. So over the next 20 plus years, I spent, quote unquote, helping people, borrowing money, giving money. Shouldn't even use the word borrow, because I've never been repaid back from anybody. So let's just throw the word borrow away. But I spent over the next 20 years, quote unquote, being the go-to person. And what you will find is that you could drive yourself crazy. You end up putting yourself in situations where you feel like people don't appreciate you, or they don't really, they don't respect the help that what you're doing. People can resent you for the fact that they need your help. And at the end of the day, what you got to realize is this: people will be okay. Your family will be okay. Your friends will be okay. Everybody has survived all these years without your help. they'll continue to survive without you. And I think the hardest part is not feeling bad about kind of distancing yourself from those situations where you're always reaching in to help somebody. Now, there's different ways that you could help that don't require that you give any money at all. And so that's kind of the transition that I've made in recent years. I'm like, okay, I don't want to give you any money, but let me tell you about this opportunity. Let me tell you how you can go do FEMA inspections and make a few $1,000s a month. Let me tell you how you can go, do property inspections and bring in a few $100s a month. That's kind of the transition that I've made. But that took forever and a day to make.
Boy, I so related to everything that you stated there. And even the last thing that you stated about, I'm not one just to give you money. At times I will like say, hey, Phil, this going on. Could I, oh yeah. Especially if I got it, like here, go ahead. But when you just keep coming back and expecting me to do something, I get bothered by that because I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Now I don't want to ask you nothing. So why you keep coming over here? But I believe in, like you just said, the teaching the man or woman to fish,
yes,
and they can eat every day,
yes,
versus me giving you the fish.
Yes.
That is just a great thing. So, you definitely focus on real estate and tax liens as well. But let's talk about, you mentioned, on your website, getting wealth, and, Black people in America, we don't have a whole lot of wealth, due to, our history.
Yes.
So based off our history and where we come from, what is the proper steps for us to even get to that point where we can have the overabundance of income that turns into wealth?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's an overabundance of income that leads to wealth. I think just like I was talking to a few minutes ago with this attorney, it's more so about getting to a certain level and protecting that and then maintaining it and then transferring it. So a lot of times we always think it's more money, more money, more money. More money is cool. But I don't know if you saw that article that came out sometime last year, and it was talking about how even Black boys who are born into wealthy families still have a high probability of losing that wealth over the course of their lifetime. And I was reading the article and I was looking at the statistics and I was like, wow, this is so sad. But then again, it all makes sense. If you don't know how to protect money, if no one has ever done it before you and you're the first, then that's a huge responsibility and a huge ask to make of someone who, by the grace of God, has made it through college, doesn't have any felonies, doesn't have any, issues with or other issues with the law. They haven't been to jail. Now they have their degree. Now they have a job. And now then you have to turn around and, make this money, preserve it, maintain it, and then pass it down. That's a whole lot to ask of someone who's never been thrust in that situation before. So I don't necessarily think it's always about making more and more money. I will say that I catch a lot of flack for this, my viewpoints about college. I'm not saying that you should throw your college degree away or not pursue college entirely, but I do think that I know for a fact that we should have a better plan when we're sending our children to college, other than, you're going to go to college or else. That's always what it is in a Black family, right? Like, you're going to go to college or else because this is the way, this, you're going to be better than I was and this, that, and the third. But really at the end of the day, college is great for resource building and building a network. And depending upon your degree, it can make a whole lot of sense. But if you are going to college and going into debt, $100,000, $200,000 for that amount of money, and you're coming out and you're making $40,000 or $50,000 a year, which is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the median salary right now for college graduates, that's a problem. And the student loan debt right now is over $1 trillion. So we really have to think about, is college necessary? And if it is, based on the plans that we have for our children, how can we reduce the cost of that? How can we save for it? How can we get scholarships? Can we go to a junior college for 2 years as opposed to going to a community college all 4 years? A lot of times it's in our community, and I hate to sound, this negative, but I shouldn't say a lot. Often it comes down to bragging rights. Oh, my baby go to Clark Atlanta. My baby got in the spell. My baby go to Morehouse. But then your baby is also graduating with, $100,000 worth of debt, which then translates into intergenerational debt. So we're talking about student loans that are never going to be repaid. Then that just pass down from generation to generation. So instead of passing down wealth, we're passing down bills. So I think a greater focus on entrepreneurship, I think would do wonders for our community. I think working together does wonders for our community. I think not following the American dream as it's shoved down our throats. And by that, I mean going out and getting a mortgage, going out and getting a car loan, but pooling resources and maybe you start investing in tax lien properties with your family as opposed to going to get a mortgage from Chase or Bank of America, which made their money on the backs of pretty much our community, right? And still do in a lot of ways. Instead of running to get loans from those banks, what about being able to go to a tax sale, saving your money, and then you're buying a property, and then eventually, maybe it's your property and there's no mortgage, and then from there you got all the leverage and room in the world to make greater moves as opposed to getting this mortgage and just being locked down with this debt for the next 20 or 30 years. Like, we have to rethink the American dream, number one, and then also rethink, our viewpoints on college as well. I think those are good starting points.
Well, I'm a firm believer of this. I believe college should be strategic. I don't think you should just be going to college to say you went to college. And what you stated earlier, going to the community college and getting your basics out the way. And that's what my daughter is doing. She's doing her basics at the community college, but she's going to transfer over to nursing school. So I even told her, I'm not helping you pay for anything with college unless you're going to come out of college making, 80 grand to 100 grand.
Which, with a nursing degree, right? That's
yeah,
what happens. So
yeah. So just like my other daughter, she wants to go to college for sports medicine. I said, okay, fine, but don't come to me telling me you want some psychology degree, because everybody I know that got a bachelor of psychology is broke. Sorry, it is what it is.
Like, people gonna be mad that you said that.
I don't care what people say. This is a show that we tell the truth here, and what you just said, $100,000 or more in debt. You come out not even making $100,000. You probably only get 30,000, if that. So some of these places in America, yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I'm so glad to hear that your daughter's in community college, because nothing better than talking to somebody that's actually, walking the walk, as opposed to just saying, how they should do things. So I think that's dope.
Yeah, and just like I said about my daughter with sports medicine, like I said, I believe the only way you should go to college unless you're going on a scholarship, period. Now, my daughter, she's working on a track scholarship. That's fine. You can go to any university you want if you're going for free. But if you're not going for free, then you will go to community college, get your basics too, and you go transfer.
I saw a meme, and you can tell me if you saw this or not. And it said that, they are always, larger society, I should say, is always moving the goalpost, right? Like, okay, do this and then you've made it. And like, nah, you gotta do a little bit more. So I saw a meme, and it says something to the effect of, when Black people started getting college degrees, in large numbers, that it diminished in value. And I read that, I was just like, I wonder how true this is, And then if you look at the headlines that coming out of a company like Tesla, where Elon Musk was basically saying, like, look, I'm hiring people who can think, who can do X, Y, and Z. I don't care about your degree. And then you see Google is not requiring a degree anymore for a lot of their positions. And also companies like Deloitte and Touche and some other places, some bigger, larger Fortune 100 companies. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that the value has diminished as we've gotten more and more degrees now?
Okay, now you're asking my opinion. All right, so my opinion on that, of course, anything that we do or become successful at in this society, always going to diminish it due to the legacy of racism and white supremacy. But we also have to understand there's a lot of whites aren't getting college degrees or can't even afford it as well, and a lot of whites want these jobs, and they don't have the degrees. But you have Blacks who have the degrees, or you have a lot of foreigners, Indians are coming in, or Chinese are coming in with these degrees, and they're complaining a lot that they can't get these jobs. So they will lower the standards for their own, community, but they won't lower the standards for me and you. We got to have the degrees of MIT or Harvard to get some of these jobs, while they can allow them to come in just because they can think, right? I want to see how many Black people be hired with these so-called you can think on your feet. I like to see that, because if we look at the history of America, we'll still have to have degrees, while our fellow white counterparts will just go in with just a high school education.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some truth to that, both anecdotal from my personal experience in the corporate, that of my friends. the ones who are still in corporate, like I can think of a couple scenarios where my friend is like, this person is basically running an entire region, and they proudly brag about not having a college degree or dropping out of college, and everyone's perfectly okay with this. So I definitely think that there will be there's always, two sets of standards. But then I would back that up by saying that I really feel like we should also focus more on building our own. That way you can employ your own. So I think it was Dame Dash who was on the Breakfast Club, and Dame Dash says a lot of crazy shit all the time. But he did say something about, can you pass down this job, or can you pass, or do you have a business? And people were like really going in on him about that. But there's a lot of truth to that too. I think that to the extent that you can create your own, then you can employ whoever you want. Right? If you can say your child, your cousin, your nephew, whatever, will always have a job with your company, like that is a big deal. That is a powerful stepping stone versus, having them be subject to, okay, you have to get a degree, you have to, get a job, you have to be told how much money that you're going to make and when they're going to pay you.
Right. And a person like myself, for instance, we have some of our loved ones that got caught in things, and they got put in the system. And then when they come out of, the being incarcerated, they don't want to hire them, and these probation will say, oh, you have to have a job. At least when my cousin come out, he ain't got that problem. Because I say he can come work for me. And he don't have to worry about probation. Don't have to worry about his record or anything like that. But we in the Black community, I agree with you. I preach this all the time. We need to be creating businesses. And there was a study that says that Black businesses hire more people that come out of the prison system more than the white owners, which is a no-brainer.
I mean, it's like you said, it's a no-brainer. I mean, as long as you didn't go in there for, like, I don't know, murder, rape, things like
that sort of thing, pedophilia, rape, all this. Of course, my cousin didn't do anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't even tolerate that. Any child thing, no. But we talking about, we got our brothers and sisters in prison for having some drugs in their pocket. They own drugs. There was no drug kingpin. They own drugs, and they locked them up 20 years.
We got them they're in prison by the millions for marijuana, which is now pretty much, not everywhere, but a place like Chicago. Now I think the state of Illinois made $3 million the first day that it rolled out on whatever date it was in January. Like, that's a big deal. But think about all those people in Cook County Jail and other jails throughout Illinois for marijuana. And now, the state's making money off of it.
And also now it's legal. Whites are just basically getting involved and selling all the weed they want and having dispensaries. And then it make it hard for Black people to get the license, or hard for them to even get started. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other aspect of it. When it's illegal, you lock us up. When it's legal, you're trying to keep us out.
Yep. I think for Illinois, there are no Black-owned dispensaries, or at least there wasn't as of like a couple of weeks ago. Maybe things have changed. I know they're trying these different initiatives to get people to apply, but the baseline considerations are so extensive and so expansive that, pretty much nobody can qualify for it.
Danielle, that's why, like I said, people hear me do a lot of preaching, a lot about the business opportunities in Africa. That's why I do that, because when I went, I just seen the vast opportunities. And I know there's a lot of opportunity here, but we are so sabotaged in many ways that if you can make it in America as a Black person, you're exceptional. And if you're going to be exceptional here in America, or like you're an exceptional, woman, then you can go anywhere in the world and literally kill it, because you may not have that hold back like you have here in America.
I find this so interesting that you just said that if you make it in America, you're exceptional. I think that more people need to hear that and understand that, because what I see sometimes in our community is that we're like, oh, I made it, so you should be able to go out and do it too, because all I did was do X, Y, and Z. I got my degree, I did this, that, and the third. So you should be able to do the same thing, not realizing that the deck is so tremendously stacked against us, right? Not just men, right? Men, and the deck is so stacked against us that if you do make it out, I would say that you are exceptional. I would say that, it's a combination of luck, obviously talent, skill, but, it is a blessing to be able to do that, because it is not designed for that to happen. I'm very clear on the fact that, I try my best not to. I used to make those statements years ago, like, oh, this person is doing this because they want to, or they don't want anything better. But especially once you get caught up in something like the criminal justice system, it is almost, if you don't have money, damn near impossible to get out of it and kind of reverse the trajectory of your life, especially if you're a black boy or a black man. They don't get the second and third chances that a lot of other people are afforded. It's kind of like a one hitter quitter. Like you mess it up and it's like, all right, well, this is your life. You're a criminal for life. You can't vote. You can't get this job. And it's this black cloud that just follows you. And then if you don't have a way to generate money, either your own business or, working for, a family owned business, it's like, how do you navigate out of that? Like, how do you start to even do anything differently when, there's it is stacked in a way that it almost defies logic.
Yeah, and that's the way the system is set up. That's why, like I say, once again, it's going to take, people like us or many other brothers and sisters out here who have businesses to not only, what I learned from other groups, they teach, they're people that really want it, of course, and trying to apply themselves. I understand, like it is a statement. Sometimes the game is sold and not told. I get that too. And there's a reason for that. More so for people who are serious, because people who aren't, not willing to invest in their own knowledge, sometimes they don't take it as something to be appreciative of.
Great. I think that I was watching Danielle Leslie one time because we did a series together, which is still ongoing. And she said something that really stuck out to me. She said, you have to pay in order to pay attention. That's a real thing. Meaning there's 7,000 distractions every single day for your time. But so that's why a lot of times business owners can give away stuff for free and nobody ever does anything with it because it was free. But if you've paid money for something, for a webinar, for a class, for something, you're going to pay attention, or at least more attention to it than you would have if you had paid nothing for it. Well, that's true. But I wanted to switch over and talk about at least, I don't know if property preservation will be the best topic for this particular audience, but I do want to talk about tax lien investing. I'm going to do a quick kind of detailed summary on, the pros and cons and how you can get started. And I'll also list a couple of places where people can invest. And since you're marketing more towards the continent of Africa, there are also ways that people there can get involved as well. I don't quite know all the specifics on that, but I do know that it can be done because I've talked to people who work in the tax sale offices at different places around the country, and there are foreign investors there as well. I think it's easier if you have a partner who's based in the U.S. to make it happen, but just know that it can be done. So with regard to when I'm referring to tax lien investing, I'm referring to properties that are delinquent in property taxes, and they're typically sold at an auction. So you have liens, you have deeds, and then you have liens, non-redeemable deeds, and then redeemable deeds. And I'll explain what those mean in a second. So liens basically an interest in a property. So when you buy a tax lien certificate, you don't own the property just yet. There is a time frame called redemption in which the real owner can come back and say, or come up with all the money that they owe, plus the penalties and interest and things like that. And then they will basically kind of relinquish your hold on the property. So liens give you a position in the property as far as ownership. It doesn't give you the property just yet. Now that redemption time frame, it can be as short as, I think the shortest that I know of is 120 days, which is for Lake County, Indiana. So that sale is taking place in April of this year. The registration is already closed, so you can't register for it, but you can attend it if you're in the area. You can attend it in person, or you can wait until September when they have an online sale, or you can wait until next year, March or April, when they do another sale like this with a 4-month redemption. So what that means is that the owner has 4 months to pay all the money that needs to be paid. And if that doesn't happen and you follow all the other steps, which your attorney will take you through, then that property becomes yours. So that's one way. So that's a tax lien. A redeemable deed is a state like a redeemable deed, probably a state like Texas, where I'm located now. So there's a sale here every month. Right outside the courthouse steps. And if you go in the summertime, it is hot as hell. It's like it's a scene that I've not experienced before, being from Chicago, but it's outside. And so they auction off the properties. And what happens here is that they don't sell liens, they sell deeds, but the owner they still have a time frame to come back and say, okay, you know what? I do want this property after all. Here, let me pay all this money that I owe. And then you no longer have an interest in the property. Here, the interest rate is 25% per year. So if you invest, let's say you buy a deed for $10,000, at the end of year one, the redemption is 2 years if it's if it's homestead property. Like basically, if it's somebody's house, it's a 2-year redemption. So at the end of year one, and the person doesn't have the money, okay, you paid $10,000. Now you're owed $12,500, and then the same process for year two. If the property is vacant, there's sometimes cases where you can actually move into the property or put a tenant in there or remodel the property, not remodel it completely, but kind of prevent further damage to the property. So that's called a redeemable deed. So yes, it's a deed, but the owner still can come back and kind of void that transaction. And then non-redeemable deed is exactly what it sounds like. You buy the deed and it's a done deal. That would be a place like certain counties in California where you bid online. A lot of the auctions are done online. You pay online and that's it. There's no redemption. There's nothing. So depending upon how much money you have and your aversion to risk, you'll decide, okay, do I want to do liens? Do I want to do deeds? Or do I want to do non-redeemable deeds or redeemable deeds? So you'll decide between those. And then from there, you kind of pick the area that you want to invest in. Obviously, places in the Midwest or in the South are cheaper than on the East Coast and the West Coast. The sale that I mentioned for Indiana has a $500 starting bid price. But again, the registration is closed for this year, but you can do it for next year. If you go to the September sale, however, for Indiana, that redemption period is 1 year. So it's a different time frame. But again, the starting bid is $500 for the sale coming up in April. So you can get a property for, $1,000, $2,000. That being stated, I don't want you to only have $1,000 or $2,000. You'll need more money. So I want to just make that clear. You need money to pay the attorney, money for rehab fees, money for other things as well. So I don't want you to take your last $2,000 and invest in tax liens. I'd rather you take that money and pool it with some other investors, maybe 2 or 3 other folks, and then you guys have, $10 or $15 or $20,000 to play with, then get a property and then execute from there. Sounds like you had a question.
Oh, no. I was just letting you explain that because we definitely appreciate you joining us today and giving us all this great information during this. But Danielle, how can people get to your website if they have any questions?
Sure. So my website is daniellepierce.com. You can subscribe there. Or I would say join my Facebook group, which is Real Estate Profit Lab with Danielle Pierce. So I only talk about property preservation and also only talk about tax lien investing. I will give you this one last tidbit for tax liens, though. If you are interested in doing this investment strategy, I would say the very first thing that you could do is it's better to visit in person. So go to the tax assessor's office where you live and say, hey, I'm just trying to see when is the next sale. When's the registration deadline? Is there a registration fee? What are the requirements to register? Where can I get a list of properties? If you just do those, I think I mentioned 5 things right there, you'll be, 50% ahead of where you are right now. And then you're ready to either, pay somebody to learn how to vet the list of properties and select properties for bidding, or just continue on your own with learning the process. But I do want you to go to a sale either way, because once you see it in action, it'll change your whole mindset.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to our website, get acclimated, ask questions if you have questions. And Ms. Danielle, we're glad to answer those questions. We'll post her website in the pinned comments. So Danielle, thank you for joining us on the show today. We greatly appreciate it.
No problem. You guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.